in a wrestling match, you want to essentially wrestle to the edge, finish the takedown, and if you can keep a foot in within the circle, that's how you score. So my mentality on the edge is wrestle on the edge while maintaining at least like a foot, almost like an NFL player would, or an NFL player would want to keep 2 feet in. But in my case, I was just trying to keep 1 foot in. And when I lifted and I started moving with that double, I remember hearing the ref, keep it on the mat. And at that point, I essentially, that's when I made the transition from in the air to the mat and almost in that same effort. And I was where I was, right? I mean, the rules are to be interpreted however I want, right? And the ref hadn't stopped us, and when he did, I made immediate action once he called it, and I just happened to be right there by the chair, so I actually hit my own head on the chair. that was a little bit rough getting up right there.
What is up, everybody? It is your favorite BJJ podcaster, your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, and we are coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. We have an excellent guest here. You may recognize him. He's a little too swole for the camera, so we'll come back to him in just a second here. All right, before we get to our great guest, a couple quick reminders. First and foremost, we are now on Patreon. So if you're watching this right now and you want to see interviews like this 30 days before anybody else, go to our Patreon for just $5 a month. You can support us so you can see early access. And for a few extra dollars more, you can pay to see extra episodes that aren't available anywhere else. Mini-sodes where we talk about either important topics like steroids or athletes that athletes competed against and had the most respect for, as well as tape study segments with the athletes talking about their matches, and a new segment that people seem to like a lot called Roast Raf, where people roast my competition footage. Now, granted, the idea is that they're supposed to be funny. Sometimes it's just asshole behavior, like, why didn't you pass guard here? And I'm like, I don't know. What a great novel idea. However, it is a fan favorite thus far in, so I think that you guys will really enjoy that one. So you can go support us at patreon.com/grappling hour. Additionally, you can like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And if you have no idea what to comment on, just wait until we get all the way to the end of the video and we will give you a topic to talk about in the comment section. If you have nothing else to talk about, we'll give you a prompt. And you can also join our Discord to continue the conversations that we have on the show. And oh, actually, one last thing. I'm so sorry. What is this? What's happening? Is this the Grappling Hour t-shirt that you can get over on rafesparza.com/merch? Of course it is. Wow. Raf, how much does it run? Well, I've heard it's $25 plus shipping and handling. However, get that over there. That supports the show. And if you're in one of those regions that's cold, you can get yourself a hoodie for $45. It is a very warm, very comfortable hoodie, I am told. I've got nothing but fire emojis from people who have bought this. And if you want to get a combo of the two, Grappling Hour hoodie, t-shirt, you can actually get both of them at a discounted rate of $60 together. Can't beat that, you guys. So, rafesparza.com/merch, or just go to grapplinghour.com and you'll get there as well. All right, our guest. We've been trying to make this happen for a bit. Let me give you the background on this. Our guest today could have easily have been brought on after the last Subversive. He had one of the most fun matches you can have. It was a wonderful way to kind of close out our night. And we saw everybody getting around the mat, getting excited for this one. It really brought it home. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who works behind the scenes on these kind of things, it's nerve-wracking when you have a final match. You want it to be good. And this was very, very good. We thought about doing it then. And then I saw this dude have an amazing run at the last trials. here for ADCC. And I thought, well, if this dude's going to put somebody through a chair, I should probably bring him on the show because he's willing to go to the extents, the lengths to get things done. And I said, when can we make this happen? So I'm so happy that we are finally able to make right a wrong, because when I ran into him at ADCC Long Beach Open just a couple weeks ago, I just said the following, which is, you better be open. You better be with the schedule that's ready to do an interview. And my man said, I'm ready. So please welcome for the very first time on our show, the one, the only one, Alex Grandy. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here. Pretty excited. Thank you for having me.
Well, you did all the work, sir. You are the one busting your ass out there and competing and making things very exciting. So I'm very pleased to bring you onto the show, and thank you for making the time. Let's start here, though. I wanted to ask this. What did that experience at Subversive, being the last match, feel like? Because it looked like it was a range of emotions for all of us watching. I can only imagine what it felt like to be the person with that adrenaline rush, with the slaps, and it felt like a whole audience was really curious to see how it was going to end.
Yeah, that was it was a really cool experience. I think Subversive brings like just a cool vibe like to the jiu-jitsu game, and especially when you throw the slaps in there. Um, I was a little nervous kind of at the beginning of the night. Once you get that first match in, I mean the nerves kind of go. Even with the slaps, I was kind of treating the match as I would every match. I was just getting prepared, getting myself warmed up and ready to go out there. Um, it was cool though. My opponent, I don't remember his name right now, but he was like a former UFC fighter, I think. So he brought that high pace and the energy. It kind of matched mine. Essentially, I was like in typical form. I was kind of like heavy with that forward pressure, trying to like initiate collar ties. That's just kind of part of my offense, and it usually like it pulls a reaction out of most of my opponents, and we kind of saw it. That night in that last match. He was a little uncomfortable kind of with my approach and visibly, right? He was kind of like gesturing like some stuff on the feet where I was kind of like having to keep my hands up just in case he didn't want to punch me or something. But I was a little worried about that at first, but then just got back into the game, right? And just tried to play a game that would win the match. So I didn't fall into that too much, but it was fun out there. I think we both shook hands at the end, said great match, and we thanked each other for it. So I think that's kind of what it's all about, right? Just going out there, having a good time, trying to make it fun for the fans, and then just shaking hands after.
It's
Yeah,
so funny to me
that's pretty
because
cool.
as I'm watching you guys, it's like just short of a fight at some point. Like
Yeah,
I saw it was starting to escalate. And for jiu-jitsu matches, it doesn't always feel like a fight. Some do, some do. But in this
yeah,
particular case, it looked like you started seeing like, oh, I see how you're playing this game. Okay, now I'm going to get more amped up. And sometimes when it is with a fighter and somebody who doesn't have as much cage or MMA experience, you get nervous for the other person. I think there was a moment midway where the reverse happened for me, and I was nervous for that dude because I saw you starting to get your power. I started seeing you realize like, oh, I can slap a bitch. And also, I'm not weak. So these might have some power to them. And we started seeing you. It's almost like the origin story of a comic book where you see like the superhero getting to learn what their superpowers are. So seeing you get to combine that kind of violence, I was like, oh my God. No, I think he's becoming a new fighter right now.
Yeah, it was exciting. I think that first match kind of it showed a lot. Like for me, I didn't get to practice as much in the room, kind of what I was putting out there in the ring, just because obviously you got to respect your partners and whatnot when you're training for this type of stuff. But that first match, I ended up on top, kind of in the dude's guard, and I just started moving my hands forward, and I landed a few, and then those quickly like created like really good offensive positions for me. That ultimately like they led to the finish in that first match. So in the second match, I kind of tried to take that same approach. Oh well, I got a little dinged up in the first one in the first match. My knee got a little twisted. So like that second match, I was ready to go, but I came out and I was ready to like push the pace, and I got in on like a double leg. I think the first one that you made the video for me on, where I have the big lift and then the mat return, my leg kind of like gives a little bit on the first attempt, and I kind of land awkwardly. But again, I didn't like finish the shot properly because my leg was a little dinged up. He got right up. He was a UFC fighter, so he kind of knew where and when he needed to make good movements, and props to him on that. He got out of a couple bad positions, at least as far as I look at it, and I kind of rushed a couple things, just not being as familiar with that combat jiu-jitsu game as I should have been. But I think this coming Subversive will be fun to watch. I kind of have a I mean, I have 200% more experience than I did going into the first match, obviously with no experience on that first one. So I think I'll probably have an even better showing, and it'll probably be even more exciting to watch. I think my overall jujitsu shape and just lifestyle have just improved like since then. So, I mean, I kind of live this way. That way I can perform well. I mean, it feels good to perform well. So, I think I think it's going to be exciting. Yeah.
Can I ask, what do you feel is the attribute or the reason why you are starting to level up like this? Just from my perspective, I think you're right. Having that experience definitely helps the XP kind of go up. Like you get those little levels, and it does help a lot. But you could have fooled us, man. Like at a certain point, you looked very comfortable in that rule set. And I think it's a combination of your aggressiveness had a new form and a new style that you could combine what you're good at with your jiu-jitsu in a realm where you go, oh, I'm figuring it out, but now I know I can pass like this. I know I can apply pressure like this and add these things to sometimes soften them up or get the positions I want. But I am curious, what is the thing that you feel has helped you to evolve a little bit more? Maybe that is in recent times, or just something that you feel like, oh, I had a breakthrough recently.
Yeah, I think it's just mat time. We do a lot. I do like a lot of like afterthought thinking. Like if I'll analyze my matches, kind of, and other matches just from certain tournaments. I like to go over and kind of study like what was working for me, and then what was working for everyone else. That way, I'm kind of like prepared for all realms. So I think like my preparation has like allowed me to kind of make that next jump. I think that's what a lot of people lack is the preparation. We have a pretty strict like it's not like a strict lifestyle. It's just like a healthy lifestyle. We eat good food. We work out. We do what we're supposed to do. We try to get like the proper sleep, and then we train as much as we can. Um, all while working like a 9 to 5. So it's it's cool. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But to add to that, I think I had previously been competing at the 99 plus weight class for the ADCC events and the ADCC trials. I think the last set of trials I placed at both of those at the 99 plus weight class. It's like 218 pounds and up. Obviously, with no limit on that weight class. I recently made the jump to minus 99 for the most recent trials in Atlantic City, where I took second. Um, I think that kind of that kind of has helped me grow in a lot of ways. Where I mean, Jiu-jitsu's a little easier when the guy doesn't weigh 270 pounds and can move kind of in similar ways to me. So being in a weight class where I can kind of use my forward pressure, my grit, and kind of like the tenacity stuff. I think that really helps me and has helped me improve in like the recent past. Um, a lot of that, I think, just experience too. I think doing the trials and doing these ADCC Opens and competing at these subversive events and the fight to wins and the other matches. I think I think all that mat time is just it's key to improving. I mean, just compete when you can, and then just trying to stay healthy. That way you can be in the room improving. So I think we've had like a good little year-long run where we've been healthy and we've been able to like just constantly work towards like these goals. And so I think that's kind of why we've been successful like over the recent couple of years.
I want to know this. So you were in the big boy division. Now you're in just like big boy division.
Yeah.
How much did you have to cut down? Because I had somebody point this out to me when I said you were going to be coming on the show. They're like, that's a big dude. And they were like, yeah, dude, he's jacked. So to me, it kind of looks like you're in your right weight class, but sometimes that does require a little bit of scaling down. So did you just lose weight? Did you thin out? Like, how were you able to make that transition? Because you're right, it does make a world of difference just going that little weight class down. Other weight classes, sometimes it's not as big of a deal, but when you have the everybody plus division, man, there's no rhyme or reason sometimes to those matches in terms of when you look at them on paper, you go, oh, okay. Got it. Orlando Sanchez versus Nicky Rod. Okay, cool. Yep. See it.
Yeah. So I think to that I wasn't a very big 99 plus guy. I was probably 230, between 230 and 235 pounds, which was that's honestly it's kind of like my walk around weight currently. I'm not really in camp yet, but when camp starts, the trials, my diet will be pretty. My diet doesn't range. It doesn't alter too much. I limit the carbs a little bit, and then I limit the sweets a little bit, but more or less, I kind of just stick to like eating like a veggie and some meat at night, and then I get my regular workouts in, and then come week of, they've been day before weigh-ins. I do a little bit of sauna, and I'm there. I mean, it's not really a problem for me to make this 217 weight class. I think 99 kilos is like 217, 217 pounds. So at the East Coast trials in I forget what month they were in.
I
Maybe
think that was
December.
back in October.
October, yeah, a little while ago. I made the weight day before, just with a little bit of sauna. The day of weigh-ins, so it wasn't an issue for me. Got rehydrated, and I was ready to go. They had me. I think I did 6 matches the second day, and I was feeling good all the way through. So the making the cut to 99 minus wasn't too big. I was essentially already there. I was just fighting the bigger guys because I don't know. In wrestling, it's a little different. Like the guys at the weight classes aren't the same, but in wrestling, typically the heavyweights aren't as dynamic as like a jiu-jitsu heavyweight, just because these jiu-jitsu heavyweights are like working from the bottom and essentially playing a little bit different of a game. So I mean, it worked out well. I placed at both the ADCC trials, basically being like the smallest guy in the weight class. I just thought this new approach would be a little more fun, and I'm a little more exciting at this weight too. I can let it go a little more without getting without if I make a mistake in the other weight class, I end up with 280 pounds on my back. It's a little tougher to recover from there.
You don't need to explain to me.
Yeah.
I have a D1 wrestler that if I make any wrong choice, my guy's only maybe 10, 15 pounds heavier than me, but it might as well feel like 100 pounds. Like when I screw up and this dude's on top, I'm literally looking at him like, there's no way I'm going to beat you now. Now, if you get me to like a referee or a turtle position, I'm like, dude, I can't move you. So I got to come up with some dumb shit real quick to make myself safe. And he's the safest training partner, but I'm just like, oh my God, dude, I'm going to throw my back out just trying to Granby. So
shout out to the wrestlers.
Hey man, well, you seem to have that as your background, and it does explain so much. And I think part of the reason why you had such great success in that Subversive match is that as your opponent seemed to escalate, you were able to match. And, you know, sometimes when you look at things on paper and people go like, oh, he's from 10th Planet, maybe they might come with a certain idea of what your game might like be like. But when we saw you in there, I go, oh, yeah, that's right. He's got a wrestling background too. So as he escalates, that's nothing new to you. Like in addition to your jiu-jitsu success that you've had on trials, it is cool to see that you were like the right game opponent. So I'd love to get this. I'm going to assume that wrestling entered its life before jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
It was my first grappling, or my first mixed martial art, if you will. But yeah, wrestling is my base. Go ahead. I can touch on whatever questions you have.
I definitely want to hear where that started for you, because when we get into these origin stories, we like to know where things began. And for me, I think it fills in some competitive holes, or at least the understanding of your story, because, yeah, you definitely look like you had that experience. And kind of rummaging through your Instagram, we could see those days go back so far that the Instagram filters for your old wrestling photos make it almost like I can't even recognize you, dude.
Yeah, yeah, those are funny. Those are timepieces for sure. Timestamps is a better word. I think where did it all start? So my older brother, he wrestled in high school actually, and he's like 6 years older than me. So essentially, I've been watching wrestling since I was like 8 years old. I didn't really start competing until I was in high school. Actually, I was doing a bunch of other sports. And wrestling wasn't as popular for like the youth in my area as it is now. But again, so I think I would credit my brother for my exposure to wrestling. Like I said, probably saw it for the first time around like 8 years old while he was doing it in high school. Ended up pursuing it with the same coach as he had when I started high school. So it was cool. I had like a relationship there from day one. So my coach is an awesome dude. His name is Kevin Elak. His name is Kevin Elak. He did a lot for me and my brothers too. He helped with like shaping kind of our approach on life. I mean, I think all wrestling coaches like hold like a big part of like their team's like upbringing. So it was cool to have like someone like him in place there. I think we learned a lot from him. He's always been a solid dude. And then from high school, I wrestled in Santa Maria. That's where I'm from, Santa Maria, California. I wrestled at Pioneer Valley High School. From there, I earned like a full ride scholarship to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo to wrestle there. Initially at 197 pounds, and then ultimately making that jump to a heavyweight. College is weird. That weight class at 197 is kind of the last weight class before you hit that heavyweight class, and it's not super friendly with someone who weighs like somewhere between 200 and 230. You can almost argue that there should be another weight class, but that was my exposure. I had a good showing in high school. I I placed at the California High School State Tournament, um, Masters, CIF, all that came with it. Did that a few times actually, and then ended up earning a free ride to Cal Poly to wrestle. That was in 2010, and then wrestled there for about 2 years, and then ultimately went separate ways. Just ended up finishing school, but that so I essentially stopped wrestling. I didn't stop wrestling, but formally in a room with a coach about 2013, and then I think I'll just roll right into this origin story. Right, it feels like we have like a good little pace with this. That kind of ended like my wrestling career per se, and then jiu-jitsu kind of came into my life when I was finishing up school in Riverside. I was just going to school, had a little bit of free time, and just kind of had that itch, right? So I went into 10th Planet Riverside, where Coach Gus brought me in. Shout out Coach Gus. Um, he was also again just another solid coach, another solid dude. I was pretty young. I mean, I'm 31 now. I think I started jiu-jitsu like 5 years ago. I was 25, 26 years old. I think I was still kind of growing into the man I am today. But meeting Gus then was I've got notes here. It's kind of why I'm looking at him. Meeting Gus was it was cool. I mean, he shared a lot with me. Kind of was my first like taste of jujitsu, and he had a great room. Still has a great room over in Riverside. Shout out to all my boys over there. They bunch of cool dudes. But when I finished school up in Riverside, I ended up making my move back to San Diego, where um, now I call home is 10th Planet San Diego over there with Boogie. So that's kind of the story on my wrestling and my jujitsu. But I know again you wanted to touch on that, so
Oh, I've got stuff here. So I've got several questions. We're going to jump a little bit back and forth everywhere. So you mentioned that you did other sports. So I want to go back to the wrestling era.
yeah.
If you were doing other sports, what were they? And then the follow up to that is, in spite of that, then why wrestling? Like, what was more appealing to you than wrestling than whatever else you were doing at the time?
Yeah. I think I was playing baseball like my whole life, growing up all the way into high school, um, with a couple other like miscellaneous like sports, just intramural, just to keep me busy. I think my mom kept me in them. But once high school started, I knew what sports I wanted to play already, because I just kind of followed in line with what my brother did, my older brother. I played football, then I wrestled, and then I played baseball all 4 years. Um, all three sports every single year. So I think I think they all played a part in like the success I had in each. Um, Football's cool. Like it brought a like the camaraderie that like everyone like loves, the football atmosphere, the team stuff. It's cool. It's a cool atmosphere. It's cool to grow up with. It kind of like that kind of shaped me too into what I am today. Right. I definitely have like a sports outlook on like a lot of things, and I think it's largely in part to me just doing so many sports growing up. But like I said, so it was football. Once I started high school, football, wrestling, baseball, every all year round. So in the off season, I would get some wrestling in, just because I kind of knew, like from my sophomore or junior year, that's probably what I was going to do in college. So I kind of started giving that the extra attention during the summer.
Do you think that your brother knew wrestling is inevitable for you? Or was he at any time being like, what are we doing, dude? Like, stop going to baseball. You got to come to wrestling. I can only imagine having an older brother that's spending time, putting in time, and making sure to guide you on wrestling. And then you go over and you go, well, that's cool. I'm going to go do football. Bye, dude.
Yeah. I actually remember exactly like that same scenario you're describing. I played junior high basketball, um, and I remember it was my last game. I was an eighth grader probably, and I played my last game. He goes, "Well, how's it feel to play your last basketball game ever?" Just because basketball and wrestling are in the same season in high school, and I started laughing. I already knew though, and I wanted it too. So I was like, "Yeah, it feels good. I'm ready to wrestle now." And I would have been wrestling in junior high if they offered it. It just like it wasn't an option. And we're athletes, kind of like my whole family. So I mean, just getting out there and kind of like playing in front of your people is kind of like what we've done our whole lives. So I mean, basketball wasn't any different. We kind of brought the tenacity out there too. There's some funny videos on that too. But that was short lived, and yeah, like I said, I remember that exact scenario my brother just mentioned, it being my last basketball game, and it was easy to come to terms with. I was ready to wrestle.
Sounds like your brother was fulfilling an early role as like an agent or a manager, being like, that's nice, kid. Tomorrow we start wrestling.
That's pretty accurate. That's pretty funny. He's still my manager in some sense. Not really, but he goes to everything. He was at the ADCC Open in Long Beach just watching. Um, he goes to all my events. It's my family comes too when they can. It's like their favorite thing to do is to watch me compete. I mean, it's a weird high it gives you, especially when you can hit each other at Subversive. Uh, I remember being on the mat in the first dude's guard, and I can hear my younger brother. He has this like very unique like battle cry, and he was like screaming it from the corner. And I can like hear him, and I was ready. I don't know. I was laughing a little bit, but then it got me in the zone too. So it was cool.
You know, now that you bring it up, I think I can hear it in my ears too. Because I remember being Matt side, and it was a wild crowd. Like, especially for the end of the night, you don't know where people
Yeah.
have been mentally. You don't know if they're still lit. And they've had drinks. Any number of things could be a factor. Sometimes, and I
Yeah.
will say this not to offend our 10th planet people, just as an event promoter, sometimes when they smoke the weed and then they come to watch the match, sometimes they're a little too chill when I'm like, no, you guys can cheer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're in a good buzzed phase, and I go, no, 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 please cheer. Like, we need that. The athletes would like that. But I did hear a great number of things where I was laughing pretty profusely, and I was like, yeah, these people they're getting lit. Okay, I see what it is. Um, I want to know this though. So, does your younger brother also do all of this? Because I feel like in most families, it's something that you just kind of start passing down. So if he passed it down to you, were you starting to pass it down and pay it forward as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My younger brother was on my team for 2 years in high school. Um, I beat the shit out of him like every single day. He would fucking cry when we got home. Just like he kind of holds a little bit over my head still that like he's got that younger brother mentality, right? Where big brother's a little mean, and I'm bigger than him too. He's got like a similar build to me, but he's like 190 pounds. So I've got like, and I've always been a little bigger than him. So um, I definitely like I rode him a little bit. Like when we would wrestle, I would hold him to like a higher standard than everyone else. I think all brothers should, right? But it, he sometimes met it with grace, and then sometimes he met it with fucking just punching me. So it's like it there's a there's a lot like we're definitely like solid brothers, but like we're not afraid to tell each other the truth, and sometimes it's hard to hear the truth. So like I don't know. It's there's I always rode him like my brother did, but I feel like I ride a little harder than my older brother did, so I can understand why my brother kind of felt the way he did during those times. But it's tough being a little brother. It's tough. So to that, I've gotten my brother. Obviously, he wrestled. Did really well. He doesn't really do anything anymore, but I occasionally just throw around the thought of coming into the room, and both of them, both of them, neither of them do it, but both of them, they listen. They listen when I ask. It's just I don't know. They're busy. It's expensive to live in San Diego, so they got priorities.
Hey, listen, there's plenty of places to train. We're not short on places to train. And
Yeah.
you know, we could come up with some ideas. We can be like, you guys mop the mats, we'll knock a little bit off that little price right there. Listen, we got plenty of ways to go ahead and reimburse them here. I would ask this though, as somebody who has seen them and has grown with them for all these years. You mentioned both your bigger and younger brother don't really train as well. But what sticks out, like if they were to train, what are the attributes that you think would lend themselves very well to what we do in jiu-jitsu if they so happen to want to do what we do?
Oh, they would look like me on the mat, like no doubt. My last time, my younger brother's been to the room. He goes. Last time he was there, no training, no cardio, no extra work. He was I told him just get in my guard and like try to get out. And we were just working like basic stuff. He wrestled. Like he was an exceptional wrestler. So he's familiar with like body movement, body control, pinning. Like he's familiar with all that. So it's not new, but he he kind of like beat my ass a little bit. Like when he was like it's definitely like white belt movement, but it's so powerful and it's got like the wrestling knowledge behind it where it's pretty scary. I mean, I've told him that before too, where he would be good at it if he ever wanted to do it. It's just it's just a want, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't want it for other people. I just wondered how much you were returning favor to your big brother when he was like, haha, really cool. Glad you enjoyed your last tailgate. You're going to be at the mats on Monday.
Yeah, he actually, my older brother, that's funny. He fucking owes me, right? I think it was 2022, I won the IBJJF World Championships, I think. Yeah, I think it was 2022, and he told me before we walked in, actually, it was my bet, but I was like, "Hey, if I win today, you gotta, like, start doing jujitsu." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." And I fucking beat up everyone there, submitted the dude in the I think I submitted everyone, actually. Um, won that title, and then I'm still begging him to get in there. I can't wait for him to watch this. Yeah, maybe this will be the motivation, right?
I mean, listen, you and I we're just preaching to the choir here. So we
Yeah.
don't have to convince each other. We both think, well, he should be on the mats. And I mean, if they're anything like you, and that's what you're saying, you're like, if you like what I do, they're going to be the exact same. I invite that for people. Like, there's a reason why, again, we reach out to people like you so that we could say, like, hey, man, that was our way of saying, what a great job on the mats. We want to acknowledge it. So, yeah. And dude, I'm such a pro in terms of whenever I see somebody who's got a really good wrestling skill, I really do try to encourage them to do a competitive version of jiu-jitsu because I like that clash. I think it's good for us jujitsu people who just pull guard to have that option, to have those people who pull that out of us. And then on the converse side, as somebody who puts together events, wrestlers just go out there and put on a good show. Like, even if they're new, they don't know it just yet. They figure it out as they go. And that's really fun to watch and to see them progress. So, in many ways, it's similar to your story where they make such a fast progression that when I started becoming aware of how you competed, you just kind of jumped on the mats. And I remembered seeing you even at Subversive, but just kind of becoming more familiar with your work where I go, no, this dude's legit and it's really fun. And then I realize I'm like, I don't know how long he's been doing it. Oh, he works with Boogie? Okay. Well, that explains a lot. And yet at the same point, you have your own style. So similar to how we've seen with PJ, where they can implement wrestling, have a good sense of a 10th Planet Foundation, it just makes me very, very pleased to kind of see the work that you're doing. And it explains so much why you're replicating this success so easily in our brain. I want to kind of fixate here and now go to your first class. Do you remember your first class experience? Because Gus is the shit, man. And I definitely can imagine him looking at somebody like you and going, yeah, okay. Yeah, I want this guy. Let's keep him around. Let's see what goes on here. But what do you remember about your first class?
Do you know Gus?
I do. Gus, you know
Yeah.
what's so funny? This this whole world is so small. So I don't
Yeah.
pretend like Gus and I talk every day, but when we run into each other, it's always like, "Hey man, how have you been? Oh my god, dude." Or because you see each other on Instagram or whatever. And over the years, he's produced some very solid killers to the point where a couple of his guys would come roll with me. And when they were new, I remembered them having very solid roles with me and being like, yeah, this is pretty good. Um, they might be that 1-2 year, but they learn very quickly over there.
Yeah, the gorilla style.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I do remember my first class, actually. I remember talking to Gus for the first time. I don't know if I took a class that day, but he was in there. It was at their original location off Magnolia in Riverside. I was obviously going to school still. I was just a student, so I pulled up, kind of chatted it up with him. Gus is super cool, so it was super easy to talk to him. He kind of asked me what my background was, and I explained to him. And he was, I think he's a smart dude, so he kind of knew like what the recipe was and kind of how I would fit well within that. So I was a student, so like I was just like, jujitsu isn't super cheap, but it's affordable if you need it to be. And I was a student, and I just told Gus, I was like, "Yo, man, can you help me out a little bit?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude, of course." And so he hooked it up. He gave me a super cool rate. Didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't ask me to clean mats. Didn't ask me to do anything. He just asked me what I can afford to pay, and I told him, and we kind of just wrote it. He kind of, I mean, the gym was awesome. I mean, but again, to my first day, that's kind of how the discussion went, or at least how I remember it. And it kind of just speaks to Gus. He's solid. I mean, the room's solid. I think it was a good room to kind of like get my first taste in. Um, and there was a bunch of big dudes, so it was cool. I got to learn a lot. Got to learn with people my size, and the dudes were just they were cool. Like they were like family. So
I
that
love
was
that
that was a
part.
solid first room.
I love that part of that requirement was you looked around and you're like, oh, some other big dudes I can throw around. Oh, thank God. You guys don't have any
Yeah.
small dudes that I have to worry about breaking over here, because I do want to ask this as a follow up. We'll jump back and forth, but at ADCC, I did mention this up top, but you were in the process of going for a takedown. And the very first takedown on your highlight reel is you almost putting a dude through a chair. Now, how much did you know? What is your aim like when you're doing this? And at that point, is it just, well, uh, Godspeed to you, my friend, but I may be putting you through like a WWE going through a table moment, but I definitely saw that and I go, those are not the chairs you want to go through. So, like, what's happening there? And is that just all adrenaline at that point?
I just uh, that's funny. The I think the idea behind that was, so prior to any of my matches, I had a couple of discussions just with the ADCC guys, and they just really emphasized, even in the rules meeting, like go until the ref stops you. That's part of the rules, right? Um, in in that, I on that double entry, the dude was standing pretty tall, so I entered, kind of lifted, and my feet were already running at that point. So I remember, so in wrestling, you're good. Like you can, there's nothing on the perimeter of the mat in a wrestling match. So, and the circle of a wrestling mat ends before the mat actually ends, um, as opposed to like an ADCC mat where there is no end. You can essentially run that thing off the mat and keep going. But to my point, in a wrestling match, you want to essentially wrestle to the edge, finish the takedown, and if you can keep a foot in within the circle, that's how you score. So my mentality on the edge is wrestle on the edge while maintaining at least like a foot, almost like an NFL player would, or an NFL player would want to keep 2 feet in. But in my case, I was just trying to keep 1 foot in. And when I lifted and I started moving with that double, I remember hearing the ref keep it on the mat, and at that point, I essentially that's when I made the transition from in the air to the mat, and almost in that same effort. And I was where I was, right? I mean, the rules are to be interpreted however I want, right? And the ref hadn't stopped us, and when he did, I made immediate action once he called it, and I just happened to be right there by the chair. So I actually hit my own head on the chair. Yeah, that was a little bit rough getting up right there, but excuse me. There's no like ill intent or anything. I mean, if it was on the mat, I would have preferred it, to be completely honest. I would have just kept the same motion and probably finished with like a mounted guillotine. I think that's what I finished with later in the match. Um, but again, no ill intent, no adrenaline. I saw the edge of the mat. I'm pretty sure I kept a foot in too, if we want to roll that one back. But those points would have been accounted. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was it. I'm
I
out
want
there.
to
I mean,
point it out
like,
though, the amount of control that you do have, because I'll tell you this, my wrestling is so um amateur, not even amateur. I think that's too high. I think it is so basic that, like, if I feel I'm getting a takedown, I think I get to that moment of like, I don't care what happens now. We got to get this. So I don't have that control to be like, oh, are we close? All right, here's the double leg. It's very nice. Everybody's nice and gentle. I did hit my head. It's okay. No, for me, it's literally like, I'm so sorry, dude. You have to go through this chair. I don't make the rules, but if they kept the action on the mats, then we'd be fine. You know, some of these things to me, and I guess I could get your opinion on this. You know, we've been asking everybody about their feelings about going off the mats. You're somebody with a wrestling background. So many people who I know in wrestling couldn't really fathom going that far absurdly off the mats. So where do you find a way to try and keep the action centered? Like what works for you? Because you've also performed on our platform before, and I'll tell you, you guys are so big and so explosive. Those are one of the few times that I actually get worried. And more so, when people start doing this, I'm like, you will do nothing to lift them. These are big boys. All of us are just
Yeah.
dying if they fall on us. So,
Yeah.
what is kind of your preference in terms of that ring out possibility as somebody with good control? Because you did make sure they were not injured in that way.
Oh yeah. If the ADCC rules are perfect in my opinion, and to add to that, I don't think anyone has the ability to put me in a position going out of bounds. To be completely honest, so I think it favors me, and I don't see anything wrong with it. But to counter that, on the subversive stage, when I shot in my second match, I picked the dude up similar to how I picked the dude up at uh, the dude I doubled at trials. I picked them both up similarly over my right shoulder, and um, Big John, I think, was the ref for the subversive match. He redirected us. It was pretty professional, right? He allowed me to maintain my takedown. I had him over my shoulder. He kind of guided us back in towards the mat, and then I finished straight to the mat inbounds. So I think I can adjust to whatever the rule set is, but I prefer no stage to be honest, because I don't want to hurt anyone going off the stage, and I don't want to get hurt like going off the stage as a result of me trying to like finish a cool takedown. Because a lot of the times these dudes are just pulling guards, so I'm like I have to be aggressive and quick in order to like beat that, or we're gonna end up with like a boring match where I'm just trying to like pass legs and they're just running the whole time. So I think that's partial. That's partly the reason to why I start so quick. I just want to avoid any just sitting there. So, and if I can get to them before they sit down, I mean, I got a little better chance.
Copy that. Sit down before he can take you down when we roll. Got it. Okay, cool. I just wrote down my note for when we roll. Having said that, I want to also go back to the very first jiu-jitsu class, because to me, obviously, we got to that era of you coming in, you were observing it. What kind of stuck out to you first? Like, what made sense to you the most? Because to wrestlers, sometimes, yeah, you're right. When we do start pulling guard, it's a foreign concept. Or, oh, yeah, I've worked with my brother and we've kind of done these things, and I've kind of learned this from my wrestling side. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu that's very weird to those who have been so wrestling oriented. But what made the most sense to you at the very beginning when you were just starting to learn jiu-jitsu?
I think just the forward pressure and like the pinning concepts, because I think a lot of like guard passing is like essentially pinning and then finding your way around the legs. It's definitely different, but like just having an ability to move your opponent in a way that allows you to work in the other direction for like a pass. It's kind of how you set up a shot. So I think like just understanding that jujitsu is just wrestling on the floor essentially, where you still need a if you want to get past the legs at like a takedown in wrestling, you need to set it up with hand fighting and creating an angle. So similar to jiu-jitsu, I want to basically do the same thing. I want to set up whatever I'm working for, and I want to have a good angle before I attack. So I just tried not to complicate things too much and kind of use what I'm good at. Luckily, my wrestling was I was a pretty good top player. I scored a lot of points on top, like riding. like the hooks that come with like a back take. It's a leg ride in wrestling. The seat belt a, is a similar position to like a power half in wrestling, where I'm not like working towards the same goal, but like I'm holding the same positions. It's just now I'm just trying to choke the dude. So I found that like I was pretty good at like back control just naturally, because that that turtle position with the guy on your back, that's it's a wrestling position. It's just called referee's position, right? So like just understanding that there's a lot of crossover between the two was, I don't know if I was getting that right away, but like now just understanding that a lot of these things are so similar, where I don't have to complicate things, just do what I'm good at. So I was kind of thinking that way on the front end of this jiu-jitsu journey, but yeah, I think so. I think just to your point, I think probably back control once I got there, but again, it was a little tough to get there. And then just like creating takedowns that landed me past the guard. That was kind of something I was good at the beginning too.
That's what's up. What brought you over to San Diego? So was it just the transition? Was it, lifestyle? Like you're going to just be moving out there, or did you specifically seek out like Boogie or that kind of top tier coaching?
The 10th Planet thing was something I had kind of found in Riverside, but I was already interested in it. They just happened to be the city I was in when I became interested. Coming to San Diego, that my sister lived here, and I was kind of like on and off between Riverside and San Diego, but I trained in Riverside because the majority of my time was spent there. Coming over to San Diego, I finished school and I came back for a job opportunity, and that's when I made San Diego my home base. Yeah, I knew where I was. I knew where I was coming. I knew I was going to land here. Um, I'm lucky enough to have the team and to have Boogie there. It's cool. I mean, I've got a bunch of badass partners, a bunch of badass teammates in my. That's where I met my girlfriend too. So it's been like life changing in every way. I think everyone in San Diego should come do jiu-jitsu at 10th Planet San Diego.
No, I know. Listen, it's very far from me. And in fact, I was just telling somebody there's a roll for beer event that's happening. And
Yeah.
And I wanted to go, and I definitely want to support them. It's two of the things I love the most. But I'm starting to look at this weather, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yo, it's 2 hours. I don't want to be driving. I don't think I'm going to be on a paddleboard anywhere. But like, I can do jiu-jitsu and beer literally at my gym anytime I want. So it's not hard for me. But anyway, TBD. But to me, the invitation, like every time I go, I try to double up and see a number of people. So I'm always like, oh, are you here? Okay, great. I'm going to be at this jiu-jitsu thing. If you want to grab lunch, cool. If not, come see me on these mats. And that's it. And that's my get in and get out. But I have so many friends all over. And I want to say, I think Gio's gym, I have not been back to since they moved. And I get shit from some of his guys. It's like, well, you don't like us? And I go, I'm just not there. Like, I believe me, I'd go there every week if it wasn't so far from us. So I definitely,
you haven't even seen it?
Well, I think, I'm trying to think.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
So I think, I'm trying to remember. I might have.
If you don't remember, you haven't seen it.
No. I'm saying I went, it might have been before they moved. Because here's how it worked. I went, I think I saw Ricky, and I was like, yo, man, I just wanted to stop in. And he's like, dude, stay for class. And I go, if I stay for class, I will never make it home. And so we shot the shit. And I think later on, I just got to know, or in passing, I just said, hey, I was there to Gio. And he was like, that's cool. So you didn't stay? All right, that's lame. Whatever. So I got a lot of shit from him. But Boogie's very funny because the times that I do go, I do try to at least try to visit. And Boogie, I always ask. I always say like, hey man, I don't assume anything. Is it cool if I come? Blah blah blah. And Boogie's like, yeah, bro. Like, how come you haven't come lately? Like, bro, you gotta come, and it's gonna be so great. It'll be so beautiful to have you come and do some jiu-jitsu, and my guys will beat you up. And I'm always like, yeah, Yeah, I better show up here. So I've been there a couple
Come
times,
through.
and they've been very, very sweet. So I appreciate that. I want to know this. There's a moment in every jiu-jitsu practitioner's life where if you're doing it at your level, you have to find a love for it, because it is not easy to do this grind or to go through that trials process. It is very grueling. You are escalating at a very fast rate. So I always like to ask this: when did you fall in love with grappling in a way that made you want to seek it in a more professional sort of setting?
Yeah, I think I probably touched on it a little bit earlier. I think winning the world championship, um, well, I love to win, so I think like it it made things easy, winning that first big title, and then kind of seeing success like after that. It really did, and it made me fall in love with it. I mean, I it didn't take much. I'm good at it. I found some success in it, and it's a good habit to have. Keeps me in shape, keeps me healthy, and I have like a bunch of badass friends because of it. So like it was easy to fall in love with. It's a good jujitsu as itself is like a good hobby. It makes me better in like other areas of life, and then it makes me do stuff that I probably wouldn't have done without it. So like a little cliche, but I mean, it really is. It's super helpful. It's a good tool, I use it as a tool too. Um, I balance like a work life. I work like 10 hours a day, and then go lift, and then go wrestle, and then go do jujitsu, and then eat food after. So it's like my daily activity. It's like my daily routine. So in large, it's all because of like jujitsu. I mean, my job provides, but um, I kind of structure it like this way, just so I can like see the success that I've seen like lately. Um, and I don't really plan on changing things. I plan on seeing the same success through the end of this year, through the end of next year, and the years to come. Hopefully, obviously, we got the Subversive event coming up, but I'm hoping to make my break at the ADCC Championships too this year in Vegas. So I'm looking forward to all of that.
I want to know this. You mentioned that you're competitive. What is the most embarrassing competitive story you have? Now, this isn't a, oh, I didn't win a wrestling meet. This is a, uh-oh, my family's really mad at me because I got really butthurt about losing this board game or this video game, or uh-oh, maybe my blood pressure is a little bit too high after we just played this game of Madden. So what is one of your most embarrassing, uh-oh, I'm too competitive moments?
It's probably that's funny. Um, Not like sports wise, but just like I was always like the antagonist a little bit, especially with video games. Like we would play Madden. Madden rings a bell. Me and my younger brother. Um, he would get all fired up for any reason. It's pretty funny. Um, and I kind of I knew what would fire him up too, so I was always pushing. But and so it wouldn't be necessarily like me on the other end, but like getting my brother to the level of, hey, yo, what the fuck? So I mean, there's nothing. Oh, you know what? There's a funny one. It goes back to like when I was really young. We were playing baseball pretty competitively, and my brother was 2 years younger, but he was playing on my team because he was pretty good. Um, he made the last out at home in a tournament in the championship, like trying to score on like a pass ball, and I think I met him at home plate, kind of with like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And I had my hands down, and he fucking winds up and goes, "Yeah," and just sends one right up the middle, fucking cracks me in the middle, right at home plate, and just runs off. I was about to beat his ass, but he ran off just in time. But it was on the baseball field. It was funny. I mean, all the families there already knew the dynamic, so it wasn't like it wasn't crazy, but it was pretty funny looking back at it now. He rang me pretty good.
Well, that is definitely a version of it. I guess I've never
Yeah.
asked this version of this question, and it, in your particular case, I think I will make the exception, which is, are you said that you're the antagonist. Are Are you instigating this? Are you a trash talker when you are competing? Because I know that word very well when you say that, and I just only imagine what I would do. And you do have a little bit of a mischievous smile as you're kind of saying these things. So, are you trash talking as all this is going on?
On the mat, no. Not well. To my teammates, a little bit. It's fun though. I'm just preparing them for battle, right? But in the match, I'm not really talking to my opponent much, but like I do my talking kind of with the wrestling. Um, you saw it at Subversive. Like I can hand fight a little, put a person in a bad spot that gets them all sorts of emotions going. So it's like it doesn't. I don't need to talk to get that out of someone. So I leave the talking to like the action on the mat. But at practice, I talk shit for sure. It's especially to a few of my partners. I'm calling out moves and stuff before I hit them. I do that pretty often to my girlfriend, but
you know what? Just you can do it to anybody else. Just girlfriend is not. No, that's not the move, my man. I think I'm just gonna let you know. You know, you aren't quite at happy wife, happy life sort of mode yet, but you will come to learn what that term is as somebody who's been married for the past almost 9 years now, and with the same woman for almost 16. You know, she doesn't do jiu-jitsu, but if she did, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be calling out the moves like, oh, babe, better watch this cartwheel sweep. Woo! Like, no.
She gets her lickings in, so it's all good.
Well,
Ralph, I'm sorry to cut you short, but I think I've got to wrap this one up. I got another call I got to jump on, but I'll leave you to your closing. I just wanted to let you know.
No, I appreciate that, man. I was actually just about to circle out. Before we get you on out of here, do you want to give any shout outs to any sponsors or your teammates, man?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Shout out to 10th Planet San Diego and Boogie, my coach. Appreciate everyone there, and appreciate you too, Boogie. Best team in the world. Shout out to the best sponsor in the world. Sponsors, actually, Secret Jiu-Jitsu Club, first and foremost. Don Perico and Doña Dolores are a few of my sponsors with my buddy Caesar back home. And then new to the lineup, we got Team Phase here. We'll be making some posts on this with that Phase Instagram pretty soon. So look out for those. And then, yeah, I think we've got a couple matches coming up that we should be on the lookout for. We got Trials, got Subversive, and then a couple other things in the middle of the year. So yeah, I'm excited.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for sticking around. I'm going to let you get on out of here and I'll close it up, but I appreciate you, my man. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you later. Alex Grandy, everybody. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you guys. A couple quick reminders before we get you on out of here. First and foremost, go join us on Patreon, grapplinghour.com/Patreon. $5 a month, early access to all of our interviews 30 days before. And if you pay a few extra dollars more, you can go on over and get extra bonus content that's not available anywhere else, including tape studies, match breakdowns with the athletes themselves. You can also check out our Roast Raf segment where people roast my competition footage. And additionally, you can go on over and you can join our Discord. Yeah, and right now we made it all the way through, and you guys can like, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't know what you want to comment on, I'm going to give you a topic right now. Here it is. It's coming to you. What is your favorite moment of trash talking in jiu-jitsu? So tell me what it is, and hopefully it's not like Alex and it's against one of your like girlfriends or whatever. Like, I think that might actually be very bad. Just telling you, it's not the move to do. You guys can also buy our merch. Check this out. The Grappling Hour hoodie. You can also get the t-shirt that we've got over here. You can find that at rafasparza.com and /merch. So go ahead and support us all over that way. We appreciate you guys. And I think that's going to do it for us. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.